Hello, Africa. This is Business Africa, and I am Ignatius Ano. Our top stories. Rwanda adopts a multi-million-dollar economic recovery plan as COVID-19 preventive measures bite. We'll hear from an official of the Rwandan Development Board. In Cameroon, a young entrepreneur ventures into industrial aquaculture in a bid to cut the country's heavy imports of fish. And we'll take a look at what lies ahead for the first female and African Director General of the World Trade Organization. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala began work on March the 1st. Details right now. Rwanda's economy is in a recession. Restrictions imposed to curb the coronavirus is piling pressure on the economy. Now, thousands face unemployment, and there's risk of more Rwandans falling into poverty. That's why analysts are urging the government to take additional measures to spur growth in this East African nation. Retail trade, leisure, hospitality, and conference tourism are key sectors hard hit. We'll speak to an official at the Rwandan Development Board in a few. But first, here's a report on an economic recovery plan that will span 2 fiscal years.
Rwanda's economy is in recession. The country of 12 million people has seen strict coronavirus prevention measures in place since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Rwandan population has felt the effects of these measures, with 5% more unemployed since the start of the health crisis. That is, 550,000 people in 2021. Over 80% of those recently out of work are in rural areas, according to data published by the World Bank this week. The pandemic has affected all sectors in the nation, including services, small to medium enterprises, and the leisure and tourism industry. There has been a significant drop in activity as Africa's technology hub has been in lockdown, leading to a notable decline in growth. The government has adopted an economic recovery plan estimated at $900 million, whose implementation will span the 2 fiscal years, 2019 to 20 and 2020 to 21.
Zefani Niyonkuru is Deputy Chief Executive of the Rwandan Development Board. He joins us from the capital, Kigali. Zefani, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Most welcome.
Rwanda has successfully branded itself as a go-to tourist destination. How has the industry been impacted by the pandemic, and how do you assess the economic situation thereof?
Tourism has been the top foreign exchange earner. And when the pandemic kicked in, this sector was heavily affected. Looking at the 2019 alone, this sector generated around 498 million USD in terms of the total receipts. But because of the pandemic, if you look into the numbers from 2020, this number went down significantly. And we're talking around really a decrease of 76%. Because when the flights were suspended, the number of people who were coming in went down significantly. All the arrivals went down by, decreased at around 70%, which again it affected the number of tourists that we've been receiving. If you look into the growth that we experienced in 2019, you are talking about where the economy grew by 9.4%. But if you go into the numbers from 2020, we are projecting to receive a growth rate that's going to even be less than 2%.
Now, is youth unemployment at risk here? And if so, can you highlight measures in place to cushion young people during this period?
Youth was definitely affected because same with the majority of the countries across Africa, Rwanda has got a population that is dominated by youth. You're talking about more than 60% being youth. But we've really seen youth being brave and actually being able to respond or to put in place some of the businesses that were able to even navigate the pandemic. You're talking about some youth starting up business, including e-commerce activities, to be able to reach out to people, to deliver, fast-moving consumer goods. For example, when the pandemic started, one of the things that we worked on with some of our major partners, MasterCard Foundation, was also to provide skills, trainings to the youth who are involved in the hospitality sector.
And what can you tell us about what's being done for small and medium-scale enterprises?
The structure of our economy is dominated by SMEs. You're talking about more than 90% of the companies being SMEs, and these ones also are occupied by the youth. So we have some measures that have been targeting these small companies. For example, we established an economic recovery fund, which has been providing some liquidity to the companies. If you go in sectors like tourism, especially hotel categories, this fund has been providing financing to enable the hotels restructure their loans to really get a certain breathing space in terms of paying back the loans. But also, if you go into the other windows of the fund, we also have a category which is geared at supporting small companies, especially making sure that they do get a guarantee when they go to the banks to borrow, to be able to access the financing from that particular fund.
Safani, thank you for your time on the program.
Most welcome.
Hello again. You're welcome back to the program. And I am Ignatius Ano. Now, Cameroon imports around 180,000 tons of fish per year. That's according to the National Institute of Statistics. The import is valued at over $200 million. The Central African nation produces more than 1 million tons of fish per year, but it remains dependent on fish imported from Senegal, Mauritania and Ireland. In Cameroon's southwest, a young entrepreneur has begun an industrial aquaculture project. Boris Kamgo hopes to help the country cut down on fish imports.
A project run by this young Cameroonian entrepreneur, Boris Kamgo, manages 6 fish breeding chains in the littoral region southwest of Cameroon.
We train young people in fish farming and produce for marketing. We already produce about 10 tons per month, and we want to increase to 360 tons per month.
The entrepreneur is building an aquaculture complex 40 kilometers from Douala. On the site at Misole, there are ponds containing tons of fish of several species.
We are training as many young people as possible to switch to industrial production, to reduce as much as possible the imports that are destroying our currency. And what we are doing now is to expand, following the call for expressions of interest that the government has launched to increase.
La production intensive dans le Cameroun et dans la sous-région.
Young entrepreneurs like him need a lot of support to encourage them. If the state could come in, I would be proud, because looking at what he is doing around, today he has just started and has more than 50 employees so far, not to mention the number are here elsewhere.
Cameroon currently imports 180,000 tons of fish per year. Young entrepreneurs like Boris Kamgo believe that small farms like this one will make Cameroon self-sufficient.
Africanews, Douala, Cameroon.
And a historic moment for women. On Monday, March the 1st, the Nigerian-born finance guru took office as Director General of the World Trade Organization. Dr. Ngozi Ikonjo-Iweala is leading a global body which is currently facing enormous setbacks, the global pandemic and its subsequent economic crisis. She told reporters on day one of the job that she's ready. Ikonjo-Iweala looks to firm up a deal on fishing.
An appointment that almost fell through until crucial backing from U.S. President Biden paved the way for the first female and African boss of the World Trade Organization. Ngozi Ikonjo-Iweala began on Monday.
The most challenging task for Dr. Ikonjo-Iweala will be to redefine the role of the World Trade Organization under the current circumstances. As a global community, we're currently dealing with a global recession based on the global pandemic. And we have also noticed that countries have been focusing on their own local and domestic markets instead of looking across the border and actually considering the markets of their neighboring countries or any other country. In addition to this, we have also noticed a number of trade restrictions that have been put into place place by a number of countries in order to protect their local and domestic markets. So Dr. Okonjo-Iweala will have to find ways around this new protectionism that has emerged over the last year and which has certainly slowed down international trade altogether.
The former Nigerian finance minister promises to prioritize trade rules on COVID-19 vaccine distribution. On her first day, she expressed her hopes for sealing a deal on cutting fisheries subsidies this year. And some question her ability to lead with challenges like US-China trade tensions ahead.
That's it for Business Africa. You can be a part of the program via our various social media handles. Follow me on Twitter at Ignatius Ano. Also, head over to Africanews.com for the entire program and more. I thank you for watching and goodbye.